Hello again, fellow druids. Decided last week I actually didn't do this live, and I had considered it, and now I feel like I'm still gonna talk about it because I have some thoughts about it. But so last week, every week, if you follow closely, you'll see Privateer Press does a dev chat or dev talk. I don't remember what they call it on Wednesdays. It's at noon if you're Central. I think it's 10 a.m. Pacific, and because of enough hounding from yours truly and doubly that from Sabra, maybe mispronouncing that, we were basically able to browbeat the devs into giving us a little taste of what is coming up with the Tharn CID. And they couldn't give us a whole lot because they're still finalizing some things and they were being appropriately vague. Excuse me. But they did sort of drop a few little bits, and so I feel like we'll go through those. So that everybody who listens to the channel is familiar and up to speed, but also just to give some of my thoughts initially and sort of prelude into what may come of that. So I have no additional inside information beyond that, but I do have that information. So the things that were discussed was they are reevaluating all of our living war beasts for them to have Pathfinder because, as Mr. Hungerford said, for being a faction full of forest-dwelling druids, there were a lot of things that just didn't have native Pathfinder, and that didn't make a lot of sense. He specifically called out the goats, but he did also say either fuzzy or furry. I don't remember which word he used, which implied to me that they're also looking at the werewolves. So there are three satyrs, the Riphorn, the Gnarlhorn, and the Shadowhorn, none of which have Pathfinder. And then Getorix, Feral, Pureblood don't have Pathfinder as well, although the Pureblood can work for Ghostly. My anticipation going into the Tharn CID is that there will be 0 changes to the Pureblood Werewolf due to its inclusion in the battle box. And I sort of expect that's not going to change here. I would really like to see the Feral gain Pathfinder. I'd really like to see Getorix, all the goats. Frankly, them not having Pathfinder blows my mind. If you've ever seen a goat actually climb a sheer cliff face, I'm like, Pathfinder. So those are huge changes for us because I think one of the big things, like for the Wild Hunt theme, which is not what this theme is about, but for that particular theme, not having Pathfinder in those is makes Tracker kind of a crappy benefit, and so that's going to be better. And then also just there's a lot of times where you're like, why doesn't this beast have Pathfinder, and why don't I at least have a way to put it there? And I think for Circle thematically that native Pathfinder probably does make the most sense. So I'm good to see that. So that's good. Especially in the goats. Getorix, it would be great to see him sort of like Mulg has seen some pretty substantial reworks to sort of make him more epic, I guess we'll say. I would love to see Getorix have some of that too, but there's a lot of directions they could go there. They could just give him Pathfinder. They could make him a little cheaper. You know, they could tweak his warps a little bit. They could, you know, there's a few levers they can pull there. I suggested Tree Walker, and I've pretty much been shot down everywhere, so I'm not gonna have that, I guess. Okay. So that was their main tidbit. They also very specifically mentioned Tharn Ravagers. Well, they said male Tharn getting cheaper, or multi-wound Tharn. I don't remember how it was worded. Definitely the Blood Pack came up as getting cheaper. No surprise there. They have been very, very maligned almost their entire existence. If it weren't for, honestly, if it wasn't for Colin Hill playing them with Morvana 2 in Mark II, I don't know that anybody would have ever talked about them ever other than to complain about them. I definitely think there's some changes in addition to point costs that I would like to see. I don't know if we will. My usual ones have been sort of the baseline is that they at the very least need to go up to armor 15 to have parity with the Ravagers. They should, in my opinion, trade out Assault for going back to range 12. I think that's a more important thing for their role. I feel like the veteran leader from the white mane should affect them, and I know there's a little bit of trickiness there. That one's probably not a total deal breaker, but it depends a lot on how they change other things. Ideally, I would then like to see their role better defined. I think they should be more of a main, farther out ranged unit. It's the one thing that sort of lacks, right? Because the blood trackers are range 7, the wolf riders are range 7, so the blood trackers sort of have this like walk threat to 14. They can sometimes be 9 inches away from their target, and you have like walk threat to 16, and they can be 12 inches away from their target on the wolf riders, but they do some other stuff. I would like to see, the flat 12-inch range from them, which I think is a unique role that we don't really have currently occupied. And I'd like to see, they're Tharn with giant bows, and POW 13 only kind of illustrates the amount of damage. I would like to see more from that. Maybe even if it's just POW 14, I would be okay with that. Something like brutal damage, mini feat brutal damage, the ability to use their corpses for range attacks, any of these things I would enjoy seeing. And I think it's not unlikely that they could be getting a command attachment. So, we'll see how that shakes out. That's just some conversation for me. I don't know what they're going to do, other than they did mention that points will decrease. I believe they implied that would happen with the Ravagers as well, which would be welcome. There may be a tad pricey for what they do, considering you kind of need the attachments and the attachment in the solo to kind of make them work, in my opinion. I think they're very close right now. There's some other tweaks. Even if their points stay the same, I would be happy to see like them sort of trading out their mini feat overtake to go to more of a damage roll, potentially, not knowing again what other releases they have. And in addition, I would certainly support them changing Vengeance on the command attachment from tactics, from granted to tactics, the one that doesn't go away when they die, because it's in my opinion, it's incredibly core to what makes them successful right now. And being able to just snipe that out, I feel like we talked about this when it was the Dawnguard Sentinels in Ret, and they fixed it there. I think I'd like to see them fix it here as well. And then the final thing that kind of got brought up was Nuala is being tested with some kind of mini feat, and Hungerford made a point to specifically say it's weirder than that when somebody suggested something that was pretty was already not seen in the game and decently strong. So I don't know what that means, but I'm excited. Any change I think Nuala is a cool character. I think she has a pretty cool model, even though it's a bit smaller and dated. And a lot of people don't really think she has a place right now. I've played her and not gotten the work out of her I would like. But I haven't played them enough to be actively like trying to improve that, so I don't know how that works for me. So that'll be really fun. And then so in general, I think it's shaping up to be a somewhat large CID for Circle, and I think we're all gonna be happy about that. I'm really excited to see what the Tharn releases are gonna be. I'm really excited to see what that mini feat might be. I would really love to see some things to get some very particular attention. I mentioned, the things mentioned like the heavies, the blood pack are great. I definitely like to see the Wolf Rider Champion get looked at, because I think she just has not delivered at all in the position she's in. I would like to see Lord of the Feast looked at. I think he just it's very, aside from when you can possibly like load him up with corpses for free with Una and put Hand of Fate on him and surprise kill a caster, I have had trouble personally getting a ton of work out of him, just through virtue of a bunch of the changes he's had. And he's like the avatar of some sort of primal force. Like, I'd really like to see that more exemplified somehow. So I'm excited to see what may happen there. And then new releases. I'm excited just to see what happens. Iona the Unseen has been unseen since War Machine Weekend, and I would like to see what's going on there. Pretty excited for that. I think we could possibly see, Chromac is obviously tied to the Tharn. Morvana, mostly her fluff is tied to Tharn. So it'd be interesting to see if they address her, if she's at all part of this. So anyways, this is sort of just throwing it out there, a little bit of a preview of what's coming up, a little bit of what they said, teaser as I called it. They're still doing Exemplar next, so that's going to start a week from Wednesday, probably go for 2 weeks. Excuse me. And then at best, we're looking at the end of May, beginning of June, I think, for this Tharn CID to start. So hopefully not much later than that. I've been kind of chomping at the bit. It's one of the reasons I've had some trouble experimenting, is I kind of want to know what, you know, how things are going to shake out and get some inspiration from that. So in any case, that's a little bit I have there. As always, for my content, feel free to join the conversation. The Facebook and Discord are linked below. I'm Cheddar Caveman on Twitter. And you can always comment on the video as well. If you like what I see, share the video, subscribe, like the video, etc. It helps out a lot. And we will catch you next time.